If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
Well, I guess it won't be easy after all. This is EJ Stewart, Tommy Beer. This is Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast, WFAN Audacy original. We are talking Knicks playoffs. We're talking a blowout loss in Game 2 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll break down this game, what happened, why was Cleveland so dominant, and does it mark concerning signs for the Knicks moving the series to New York for Game 3? So we'll talk all about that. We'll also talk about a play that happened late in the game regarding Julius Randle and Jared Allen. Randle fell hard on his back on a late foul by Jared Allen on a dunk attempt. And there's been a lot of questions about Tom Thibodeau and his decision to leave the starters in the game at that point in time, being down 20-plus points with 2 minutes to go. Randle, Brunson, a lot of stars were in the game when Randle took that tumble. So we'll talk about that decision and what we thought about the foul. And in some larger NBA playoff news, some massive news coming out of the Western Conference playoffs, Draymond Green has been suspended for the Sabonis stomp that happened just a couple of nights ago in Sacramento. So no Draymond Green for Game 3. I want to get Tommy's thoughts on whether or not that was the right decision to suspend Draymond and what he thought about Draymond and what he thought about the whole situation. So plenty to get to on this episode. Tommy, how you feeling, my man?
Plenty to get to is right. We got a big Warriors game tonight. This is NBA finally starting to kick into high gear right now. We got some important games, including Game 3, Knicks Cavs Friday night at the Garden. The reason why that matters is because the Knicks got a Draymond stomp of their own Tuesday night in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Which is, listen, nobody was predicting a 5-game romp or a 4-game sweep. You know, everybody knew it would be difficult one way or the other. As the Cavs showed on Tuesday, they got plenty of fight left in them. And they showed the Knicks. They made the first major tactical adjustment of the series, which we'll discuss. And then we'll see how Thibs and the Knicks react. So let's get into it.
Yes, we will. So let's get into it. And before we start, again, this is Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast, WFAN Audacy original, a podcast you can get wherever you get your podcasts, including the free Audacy app. Make sure you hit the auto download feature on your streaming service to get these episodes every time we drop. We drop 3 times a week. This is our second episode of this week. So make sure you hit that auto download feature. Also rate and review the podcast on your streaming service as well. And check us out on YouTube. You can find us on the Audacy Sports channel and the WFAN channel as well. So you can get the video version of this podcast and the video segments from this show. So the Cavs answered the bell in Game 2. They delivered a knockout blow to the Knicks. The Cavs outscored the Knicks 34-17 in the second quarter and cruised to a 107-90 victory in Cleveland. The Cavs turned the tide of the series with suffocating defense that held the Knicks to just 39 points in the first half on 37% shooting. Meanwhile, the Cavs got a breakout game from Darius Garland, who was red hot in the first half. He had 26 points in that first half. He finished the game with 32. Karis LeVert, who also served as the primary defender on Jalen Brunson for much of this game, added 24 points off the bench. Donovan Mitchell only scored 17 points in this game, but ended up with a career-high 17 assists, so he definitely still made his impact felt in this one. For the Knicks, it was a struggle for pretty much everyone offensively. Jalen Brunson, who had a monster Game 1, struggled in Game 2. He shot 5 for 17 on his 20-point performance. Julius Randle had 22 points on 8 for 20 shooting. RJ Barrett was 4 for 13. He added 14 points in this one. So right out the gate, Tommy, why were the Cavs so easily able to dominate the Knicks thoroughly in game 2?
Yeah, I think if we start in the second quarter, one possession game, 2-point game, back and forth in the first quarter. Knicks hanging tight, not scoring a bunch, but their defense doing enough to keep them close. 9 minutes left in the second quarter. It's still just a 2-point game, 26-24. Turnover by Isaiah Hartenstein. Cavs come back on the other end of the floor and score. And to me, I thought it was emblematic of really what troubled the Knicks. There's been 2 things, and we talked about going into the series, and we've talked about throughout the regular season, kind of the secret sauce for the Knicks offensively is taking one of the factors that they really lean on is taking care of the basketball. Third in the league in fewest turnovers per game. Those final 9 minutes of the second quarter, they turned the ball over 9 times, led to 19 points for the Cavs. Really difficult to overcome that sloppiness, that not taking care of the basketball. Again, lead went from 2 points to 20 over that final 9 minute
Wow.
stretch of the second quarter. A total of 14 turnovers in the first half. Knicks averaged 13 turnovers per game during the regular season. Other really important factor for the Knicks is to dominate the glass. We saw that in game one, had 51 rebounds to the Cavs, only 38. And game one was a major factor in the Knicks' victory last night. Knicks only get 36 boards, 38 rebounds, out rebounded by Cleveland 43-38. We'll get into Jalen Brunson. I think he was doing a little bit too much early on, wasn't passing the ball enough. Randall didn't have a great game, didn't seem to be in a great headspace. RJ Barrett continues to struggle. And the Emmanuel Quickly thing's really disturbing and perturbing and confusing, however you want to
Yeah.
call it. Weird. So all those kind of weigh in, but we saw a lot of that, kind of be overcome by a really strong Josh Hart game and a great second half from Brunson in game one. The final score was a 17-point advantage for Cleveland. It wasn't that close. Knicks really got thoroughly outhandled, especially over the final three quarters. And I thought the turnovers and rebounding were primarily responsible.
Yeah, I mean, those avalanche of turnovers killed him. I mean, Julius Randle had 4 turnovers in just the second quarter alone. I mean, that is not going to get it done on any level. But it wasn't just him. Jalen Brunson turned the ball over. You mentioned the Hartenstein turnover. Josh Hart turned the ball over. Quentin Grimes turned the ball over. Credit to the Cavs. I mean, they said they were going to be more physical. They said they were going to be more intentional with how they made the Knicks feel them, and they really turned up the heat. And the Knicks just didn't respond. That's the only way to describe it. I thought that Cleveland, and that's frustrating because I thought Cleveland started that game still nervous on the offensive end.
Yep.
The Knicks were playing really solid defense. Cleveland still looked like they were trying to feel their way through that game, especially because Donovan Mitchell started that game, which I want to get to very soon, not being quite as aggressive. I think Cleveland was trying to feel their way through how they were going to score offensively. And that's why the Knicks got off to like a 8-point lead in that first quarter. So the fact that Cleveland kind of allowed the Knicks to perhaps get themselves into a rhythm in that game. Knicks couldn't take advantage of that in the first quarter. And then once Cleveland kind of saw how close the game was and said, all right, the season's pretty much on the line for the rest of this game. If we don't turn it up now, the season's going to be over. You can't go to New York down 0-2. And they turned up the heat. The Knicks seemed like they were completely befuddled. I don't want to say that they were just saying, okay, we're happy with the split. But I just think that they just did not feel the need or just could not match Cleveland's intensity. And this is what Cleveland does in terms of what they can do defensively. Like, they were more physical. I'm not going to act like they weren't. But again, to me, it's less about their physicality and more about their length, more about their speed and their athleticism. And what I saw in that second quarter was it felt like the Knicks were playing in, quicksand and the Cavs were playing on a fast track. Like they're just so quick in their rotations. They were so much better on their double teams and their help defense. And they just use their arms. They're waving. They're being intentional. Like, I think it was Wiley who said it during the post game. Like, when they were double teaming certain guys, like especially IQ, who came in and turned the ball over immediately. These are not soft double teams. These guys are coming after you, trying to get steals, trying to deflect the ball. So the Cavs deserve a lot of credit. This is not the episode to poo-poo what the Cavs did defensively. They are the best defensive team in the NBA, arguably, and they looked like that in that game. What I will say is I thought Jalen Brunson, to me, he gets the lion's share of the blame for this loss, honestly. Like, I thought he set a terrible tone for the Knicks offensively because it almost felt like he was trying to make up for lost time in the first game because he was not looking to pass the ball. He came in looking to shoot, looking to get his shot, and what bothered me about it so much was, okay, one, you're not making shots, so you think, okay, maybe you got to make a quick adjustment if your shots aren't going down. I know he had a couple guys shots go in and out, shots that look like they were going to go in. But the other thing that bothered me was look at how Donovan Mitchell started that game. Mitchell at 38. Mitchell saw that he could get his against the Knicks, but his teammates looked shook in game one. His teammates did not play with confidence. His teammates did not provide any assistance for him in game one. So he came into game two saying, I have to get these other guys some confidence, get these other guys some shots. And again, it started off not well. Like, they didn't play well the first 10 minutes, 8 minutes of that first quarter. But at the end of the day, him getting those guys shots and getting those guys rhythm, getting those guys confidence eventually carried itself into the second quarter when Garland goes for 15 and a quarter. Like Brunson, seeing what he saw from IQ and RJ and Quentin Grimes, he needed to get those other guys involved. He needed to play more full general start that game. And look, if you go down, then you say, okay, I got to go out there and get my offense. But I didn't like how he started that game saying, I got to get mine first, and then I'll get these other guys involved. Those other guys are struggling with their confidence. So I thought Jalen Brunson set a really poor tone for the Knicks in this loss. And not to say that it's all on him, but I think that was a big part of why the Knicks offense struggled.
Cannot disagree with you there. If we give Brunson credit when the team plays well, we got to knock him when the team plays poorly. And he played poorly. Actually looked up the numbers. This was the first time in his career. He's played 374 games, regular season and postseason. This is the first time in his career he's attempted more than 15 shots and made 5 or fewer field goals. So that gives you an idea of how he was just out of sorts and clearly wasn't productive, wasn't efficient, and it was not a net positive for the Knicks that night. In defense of Brunson, I'll say this. The reason the Knicks won game one was because Brunson put the game on his shoulders, put the team on his back in the second half.
Question.
He was limited to 9 minutes in the first half, came out in the second half. The difference was the Cavs put Jetty Osman on him and basically, said, God bless, good luck, and hopefully we somehow survive.
Right.
Which was a big mistake. They made an adjustment, and Brunson didn't adjust to the adjustment. I thought you made a great point on how the Cavs rather doubled Brunson. The parlance of the NBA defensive teams is sometimes you'll show on a screen, a big will show, and then scramble back and find, protect. No, the Cavs blitzed double teams. They blitzed high pick and rolls. Nearly almost as soon as he crossed half court, they'd have a guy run at him. And Brunson, the Knicks in particular, and Brunson specifically, did a very poor job of finding either Mitchell Robinson at the nail or skipping the ball across the court when those doubles came. Perfect evidence. Quinn Grimes had 2 field goal attempts in this game. We've talked about how inefficient the Knicks offense can be when there's not balance offensively. And Brunson, to your point, in support of your point, didn't do a good enough job getting these guys looks. I understand what his thinking was. If they're going to run single, a poor defender at me, he made his first shot and Okoro was 2 fouls down, in the first 3 minutes. It looked like Knicks were up 8 points. But again, he's got to adjust when he sees the Cleveland shift their game plan. He's got to be more of a distributor and playmaker than scorer. So hopefully he'll adjust to that as well. So, we'll see, we'll see how it goes, assuming, and again, he's a very high basketball IQ. I expect him to make the correct decisions again, but there were times when Mitchell Robinson caught the ball top of the key and Knicks had it 4-on-3 and they didn't. And whenever the skip pass was made or the correct play was made, the Knicks decisions weren't sharp. They weren't moving the ball, too much ISO, too much dribbling. And you get 90 points, the second fewest points the Knicks have scored this entire season.
And how many times were they also just not in sync? Like, they're trying to make that second pass and, they're throwing the ball in the third row or they're throwing the ball to the referee. Yeah. Like, it seemed like guys weren't where the passers thought they would be. I mean, Josh Hart took a ball to the dome at one point on a second pass on one out of those double teams. I mean, the Knicks were not prepared for what the Cavs are going to do. And it is what it is. I mean, it's game 2. You won game 1, so I don't want to just go ballistic. But the fact that they didn't really even anticipate that adjustment is a little annoying and a little frustrating in that standpoint. So they're going to have to get it right. I mean, this was a game that was, like I said, not competitive for a lot of this. At how much concern do you have going into a game 3 because of this loss? I don't want to, emphasize so much on this loss because the Knicks did get what they needed, which was a split. But you go down 29 points. Do you take a large bit of concern from this result, or do you say, hey, Cavs need to get that game? We'll be fine going back to the Garden for game 3?
Yeah, I'll say this. If you would have asked Knicks fans Saturday morning before game 1, do you settle for Wednesday morning being 1-1, head back to the Garden, 5-game series, Knicks having home court advantage? Most fans would settle, would take that. Yeah. Look back 6 months, going into the season. If I told you the Knicks would be a 5 seed and have a 1-1 game, heading back to the Garden. You obviously take that as well. Expectations were low. That being said, you don't like to give away a game. But we got to give credit where credit is due. Cavs outplayed them. They out-toughed them. They talked for 2 days about we're going to land the first punch. We're going to be more physical. Basically, the coaches, the players, everyone called it a gut check game. And the Cavs played like the more desperate team. And more often than not, when two teams are relatively even, as these two teams are, the more desperate team is going to have an advantage. And the Cavs played like a team that's the best defensive team in the NBA, which they were for the prior 6 months. First in the NBA in points per game allowed. First in the NBA in points per 100 possessions allowed. We talked about the fact that they had held teams under 100 points 24 times during the regular season, more than any other team in the NBA. They were 23-1 in those games. So you factor all that in. At the end of the series, it's not who scores the most points, it's who wins the most games. So whether you win by 1 or you win by 29, a win is a win is a win. A loss is a loss is a loss. Now you just got to adjust. Now you got to, make the counter adjustments for what the Cavs did. I think more concerning than the game, losing that game in particular, is fearing that the Cavs may have stumbled upon something that may benefit them going forward. Isaac Okoro plays 3 minutes. Again, the Knicks are daring him to shoot, funneling the ball to him. He's not giving the Cavs anything on either end of the ball. They bring in Karis LeVert and Cedi Osman, but it was Karis LeVert who really scored 24 points. Was, coming in, one of the things we talked about was the Knicks X factor is RJ Barrett. He's been bad. Whereas the Cavs X factor is in many respects might be Karis LeVert. Was bad, terrible in game 1 of 7. Comes back in game 2 and really gives them the punch. We'll talk about Garland, but I thought his play really helped set the tone and establish and keep the Knicks at arm's length. I assume we'll see very limited minutes from Okoro, and then it becomes fascinating. Do the Cavs stick with essentially a 7-man rotation, and that that includes Danny Green playing 20 minutes, who he hit some shots, but can he guard guys off the dribble? I think the Knicks can take advantage of him. And if that core 4 plays 40 minutes a night, they have 3 days off now, so that definitely benefits them. But if they play Friday night at 8:30 and then Sunday at 1, do they get worn down there? Those are things that will have to factor. But as I said, the adjustment going forward is how do the Knicks counteract 1, the aggressive double teams on Brunson, and 2, on the other end of the floor, how do they do a better job guarding LeVert? If I'm Thibs, I don't want Brunson to have to deal with LeVert. I'm going to stick him on the other. If it's Cedi Osman in the corner, he was 2 of 7, I believe. But I don't want that to put that responsibility on Brunson.
Yeah, LeVert was fantastic. I thought his defense, he was picking up full court on both Quickly and Brunson. I thought he was phenomenal defensively. Something that I learned he's a much better defender even I realized. That's something he's done for them this season. He really wasn't a factor defensively in game 1. And they didn't try him on Brunson in game 1, which now after seeing his success was a little surprising. But and maybe part of that was because he was so bad offensively, they couldn't put him out there. But he was fantastic on defense. I thought that kind of set the tone, I thought, for the entire Cavs defense. He came in the game and he's picking up full court and he's using his length to bother these smaller guards. And I thought that was a huge difference. And then offensively, he gets it going. The Knicks can't have that. Like I said, to me, this is a 2-man team, really, in terms of offensive creation with Garland, who was red hot, who Knicks going to have to find a way to slow down. And Mitchell, is that if they get a third guy in there and LeVert, that's where major problems come. So big game from LeVert. They can't afford to have more of those. The Knicks want to win this series. And on Garland, the Knicks have been using essentially RJ Barrett as the primary defender on him, trying to hide Brunson. I tweeted it yesterday. I think Deuce McBride's got to play in this series. I think living with that many minutes with Barrett chasing around a guard as dynamic as Garland is not. I don't think you're gonna get the best from RJ Barrett this whole series if that's how this is gonna work. I think Barrett's working hard. I think he's trying. I think he did a good job in game 1, but I just think this is a upper echelon point guard who is a deadly shooter, and if he sees 1 or 2 go down, then it's look out below. And this is a guy who had a 50-point game this year. I think they can't live with that solely being the answer. that we can put RJ on him and that be the case. Now, I know that expands the rotation to 10. We saw Deuce come in for a little brief stint. I think Thibs is going to have to get maybe 3 or 4 minutes in each half of Deuce McBride chasing those guys around just to keep some of these guys' legs fresh, because Garland is a dangerous scorer. And I think that at the end of the day, like I said, this is a two-man team. So you can't have both of these guys having big games. You can't have Mitchell getting 13 assists and Garland also getting 32 or 26 and a half. Like you got to take away something.
Listen, RJ Barrett is 6 of 25 from the field through 2 games. He's played 7 games in his playoff career now, shooting 35% from the floor, 25% from behind the arc in those 7 postseason contests. The reason, the rationale behind playing RJ Barrett extended minutes is, he's not a great defender, but he's effort, he has length, he can, hopefully disrupt Cavs' offensive flow. But at least you get the offensive, a guy that averages 19 points a game. Not always efficient, but you can get downhill, draw some fouls. He's not doing it. So if you're playing a guy for his offensive contributions, and he's not only not contributing offensively, he's been a detriment. No touch around the basket, no confidence in his outside stroke, not drawing fouls, not getting to the line enough. I don't see how you can justify playing him 33, 34, 30 minutes a night. I wrote the same thing this morning. I think they got to redistribute those minutes, whether it's more minutes, give IQ extended minutes, and he's been bad. We'll talk about that. Give Grimes more playing time, kind of reallocate those minutes, early on, and bring Hart in alongside. So you have Hart to guard one guy, either Brunson or have Hart guard Mitchell, and then have Grimes guard Garland. Experiment with that, and also bring in McBride, play him for 4 or 5 minute stretches. Again, if he doesn't knock down threes, you just have RJ Barrett with less volume, less miss shots.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
There's not a lot to lose there, so that's kind of my thinking. RJ Barrett hasn't earned those minutes. You come into the series hoping that he can kind of be that X factor, that he can kind of reestablish his stroke, that he'll see a couple shots go down, and maybe he'll knock down some threes and get to the bucket. But it hasn't manifested itself. And you mentioned game 1 again. He's putting forth effort, but Garland was 7 of 13. He just didn't take a lot of shots.
Right, he wasn't aggressive. Yeah,
he wasn't aggressive, and everybody on the street he said screamed at him, his teammates, his coaching staff, his girlfriend, shoot the ball, bro. And that's kind of what he did. So, and as you mentioned, saw a couple go down. Barrett's just not a good enough defensive player. Can he develop? He's only 20. We talk about this on and on. But at this stage of the game, in the biggest game of the Knicks, season, in 48 hours from now, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable trusting him to slow down a player that obviously has the ability to take over a game. So for the Knicks to lose a game where Mitchell scores less than 20 points, granted 13 assists, he was awesome. He did just what they needed to do. But going forward, Garland has shown that you can slow down Mitchell and he can still have a big night. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think we're on the same page that Thibs has to reassess things here. And Barrett's probably not the answer.
Yeah, I mean, Barrett, he had 7 free throws. I thought in the second half, I know the game was out of reach, but I thought in the second half he started to get some fouls, started to get to the basket a little bit better, not finishing, but at least getting fouls. So there was that. So maybe he takes that to New York, but the leash has got to be shorter on him. That's to me the way it is. If he's not giving you anything in the first half, then you got to try out the guys. This is do or die at this point. This is the playoffs, so it is what it is. So Knicks lose.
You can't worry about feelings and emotions.
No.
This is listen. If a guy's not getting it done, you got 6 months to tweet talk and say, "Hey, still my buddy." You got to win game 3.
Yeah, exactly. So Knicks lose. They get back to New York. Game 3 is on Friday. So I want to talk about one thing real quick here. So the Knicks head coach Tom Thibodeau, he's taking some criticism for a play that almost landed Julius Randle back on the shelf with 2:22 to go. Randle was undercut by Jared Allen during a breakaway dunk attempt and was slow to get up after grabbing his back. He would make the the flagrant foul free throw, then head to the locker room. So Jared Allen was assessed with a flagrant 1 for the play. J.D. Bickerstaff argued that he thought it was a basketball play and that it should have been a flagrant foul. Tom Thibodeau was asked about why Randle was in the game and actually have this sound from him. So here's what he said about why Randall was even out there in a 20-point blowout.
I actually was going to shove Julius out. He wanted to stay in for a couple more possessions just to find rhythm.
So his explanation being that Randall wanted to remain in the game because he wanted to get a rhythm. He, of course, missed 70 days of action with a sprained ankle before making his return in game one. For Randall's part in it, he talked about whether or not the play was dirty or not with Jared Allen. So here's what Randall had to say.
I mean, at this point, it's irrelevant. I thought it was a little unnecessary. You know, usually when you I understand like playoff basketball and you know, you don't give up on plays, and I respect that. You know, I'm somebody who plays hard. I respect that. But, you know, typically when you make those kind of plays, you run across their body, not through them. But it's fine. It's irrelevant. You know, go back to the Garden and we'll see them there.
It's interesting. They asked him, what do you mean by, you know, how you think, what do you mean by going back to the Garland and seeing them there? He's like, it's the Garden. So I think he's kind of like giving a sign to the Knicks fans to say, hey, you saw what happened. Remember what happened and be ready for game 3. So I do want to say, I think, well, first of all, this was insane to me. I thought that Thibs almost lost the series for the Knicks with this, because if Randall gets hurt, he can't play multiple games because of this. The Knicks would not win the series. The series would essentially be over. You could lose a game, losses happen, but for Thibs to be this reckless late in a game with your team's getting blown out, I mean, that was 222, but they were in the game for earlier than that when the lead was even bigger. For him to leave those starters out there, I didn't watch much of the TNT broadcast, but I guess Reggie Miller was like hammering home the fact that Randall and Brunson need to be out of the game. That was just reckless, and that was a dereliction of duty from Tom Thibodeau, and that was terrible. And it was really a bad sign. I didn't even like him putting it on Randall. I think as a coach, you need to say, hey, you know what? That's on me. Like, I gotta be better than that. So poor job by Tom Thibodeau. I don't know. What did you think of the whole situation with him leaving Randall out there?
Yeah, I think we're going to disagree on the Jared Allen quotient.
Right.
I didn't think it was as dirty or Bush League. We're 100% in agreement on the Thibs aspect of it. A couple things. One, what if Obi came up to Thibs and said, hey, I played 6 minutes tonight. Do you mind if I get some run here? You know?
Yeah.
Would Thibs have taken, you know, in other words, if Randall asked to stay in, what does that factor into the head coach's decision to do what's best for the team? Again, I think it leans back on this whole thing where Thibs continually kowtows to Randall and is afraid in any way, shape, or form to upset him or disrespect him or listen.
Yeah.
It's a 23-point game with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left in the contest. The Knicks are not winning the game. The most ridiculous part of it was they took him out after that foul. Like, you just got the flake, you know, so you got a bucket and you got the flake. So why are you taking, in other words, if he could have played then, why are you taking him out? Why not let him play the final 10 seconds and have him run wind spread? You know, like the idea that the only way you can get a game shape is by staying in the
last 2 minutes of the game. Yeah,
the last 2 minutes of a playoff game is ludicrous to me. You know, listen, you got 2 more games. It's not like they play the next night and there's no time for practice or, you know, like there's other ways. It's not like he has to rehab. It seems like he's, you know, he's physically fine. You know, he can get extra cardio in or whatever over the next 2 days and to kind of ramp up his energy levels and just prepare himself to get in game shape. So a couple things. One, let's hope he's okay. We left game 1 thinking, Hart tweaked his ankle, but you know, he's fine. He came back in, hit the 3-pointer, you know, yada, yada, yada. Then on the next day, he's listed as doubtful, of course. He ended up suiting up and was cleared to play. But obviously, there was a point 24 hours prior to the start of game 2 where they didn't think that he would be available to play.
Yeah, and he was not much of a factor in that game yesterday. So
he was not. He was not a team low -29, a very uncharacteristic Josh Hart contest. So Randall looked fine. He got up and walked away. let's hope that he's able to practice fully and that we don't get a situation where we get a tweet from Knicks PR. We're recording this Wednesday afternoon on Thursday morning where, Randall listed as questionable, wasn't able to participate in practice, whatever the case is. Let's hope he's okay. The other thing is at the end of playoff games, if I've seen a playoff game, I've seen, 1,000 bad things happen because teams are pissed. They just lost a playoff game.
Right.
Players get angry. They shove. They push each other. How much time was left when PJ Brown flipped Charlie Ward?
Right. Yeah.
How much time
10
was
seconds,
left?
whatever it was.
We've seen it time and time. JoJo English and Derek Harper. We can, that's just Knicks games, and there's a million other scenarios where these things have happened. So my thinking was, when Randall went up for the dunk, please don't get hurt. Then he goes tumbling to the ground. Please don't be hurt. And then as he's getting up, I'm thinking, he's going to try to throw a punch at Jared Allen or shove a referee to get at, Bernie Bickerstaff or something like that. So I thought Thibs really got lucky here because to your point, if Randall would have missed that time, it depresses me to no end that I'm forced to agree with Reggie Miller. So that's the low point. It's a low point of my day. But yeah, zero rationale. And also, if you want Randall to play, if he tells you and you want to say, okay, whatever you want, Randall, you can play the last few minutes. Why is Brunson in the game?
Right, exactly.
Did Brunson say he wants to play too? So I find it really hard to find any. I think it's almost like Thibs just wanting to. He knows what people are going to knock him for the minutes, please, and him thumbing their nose at people and just be like, listen, I'm going to leave my guys in. So luckily the Knicks got away with it. But yeah, I can't justify that decision.
Yeah, I can't justify it either at all. I mean, like I said, you make a good point. I didn't even think about the whole Randall angle with Randall once again continuing to keep getting what he wants, regardless of what it means for the team. And this was kind of another example of that. You're right, where it's clear that the game is over and you need to keep him rested and fresh. And the point you made about Brunson was also very accurate. And I thought about the same thing. I'm like, all right, well, if Randall is the guy that needs rhythm, why is Brunson out there? He could use the rest. He could use the time away. We don't need him to get hurt. So. Yeah, I just think sometimes Thibs coaches on autopilot, man. I really do feel that way, and it's crazy because I don't take anything back from game one. I thought he coached his best game as a Knicks head coach, but then there are these games sometimes where it's like, all right, like the decision has to be made. Like, are you awake? Let's go. Like, what the situation is, and he's just like, well, like it doesn't really matter if I don't do anything here, or it doesn't matter if I don't make an adjustment here. It's like, no, it does matter because something catastrophic can happen, and something catastrophic almost happened. I'll just say quickly. On the Jared Allen thing, I thought that was a completely Bush League play because I understand it's a postseason. I understand you don't want to give up anything, just like Randall said. I agree with all of that. What I don't like is you have a play where you're up 20-something points. You have a play in which it's a 2% chance he makes a block on that play. I mean, he had no chance to make a play on that ball, and you're going up with a guy who's going for a dunk, and you're coming from behind him, and only bad things that happen when a guy's up in the air like that. And anybody who plays ball knows that you cannot throw a guy off when he's going up for a dunk uncontested and you're coming in late. Like, that's just an absolute no-no. So for Allen to do that when a game we were up 20-something points was ludicrous to me. Go out there, sprint, go out there, make a feint attempt. That's fine. You can't go out there and make real contact on Randall there. And if there was any part of me that wanted to give him a pass, I'm looking at him on the bench and he's grinning at the replay. He's pointing at the monitor. He's looking at the replay being like, I don't know. And he's smiling ear to ear. So I took that and said, okay. And then J.D. Bickerstaff is saying, well, that's a basketball play. I said, okay. Knicks fans, the Knicks team, you now understand what the rules of engagement are now going into game 3. That is a basketball play. And what Jared Allen did, they think is totally cool. So I hope that everybody in the Knicks organization, I hope the Knicks fans that show up in game 3 and game 4, they know what time it is because I just thought that was ridiculous. I mean, if he injures Randall there, he goes down as one of the biggest villains in New York sports history. That's why the whole giving him a pass for some people I can't accept because it's like Randall could have gotten hurt like that. He's lucky he didn't. So because I think the reason why people are willing to say, well, he didn't do anything wrong is because Randall didn't get hurt. But everything he did very well could have forced that injury. He didn't do anything to ensure Randall didn't get hurt in that play. So that's why I was so fed up with it.
I would just say this. I think he made a play on the ball. I think it was excessive. I do understand not wanting to take a guy's legs out, but in other words, I saw somebody earlier tweet like if this was Draymond Green that did it, and we'll talk about the Green stuff in a sec. But like if it was Draymond Green that fouled Randall, he'd been suspended for the rest of the series. I totally disagree with. It wasn't stopping. It was in the Jared Allen's in the game. He's not going to shoot 3-pointers. What he does is block shots and grab rebounds and dunk the basketball. So that's what he's in the game for. If he had done it in the first quarter of a one possession game, if Charles Oakley had done that to Scottie Pippen in the third quarter of a game 3, in a tie game, I don't think a lot would have been made of it. So again, if Randall's sprinting and chasing and running into passing lanes to get a dunk, I don't have a problem with a player attempting to prevent his opponent from getting an easy basket. As he contacted him, I thought Randall was right. He went through him as opposed to just going for the ball. I thought he could have handled it a little bit better. That's why I don't have a problem with the flagrant. I think that you contact a player in the air without his legs underneath him. You don't want that in the NBA because there is a decent chance if Randall falls on his hip or falls on his elbow or falls on his wrist, there's a million ways that a guy can get injured, and you don't want that in the NBA. So yes, I understand. But all that being said, I just the spirit of the play, in other words, I don't think it was wasn't an elbow at midcourt to a guy's chin, or grabbing somebody's ankle and yanking them back down, or a guy beats you, so you swipe at their legs or kick them or something along those lines.
Right.
So that's why I understand Bickerstaff having a defending his player as you knew he would. As far the last thing on this, as far as the Knicks getting motivated for game 3, understand that the fans are going to get worked up. But if you're the Knicks and you need a foul in the final seconds of game 2 to get you up for the most important game of the season, then you're lost anyway. But I agree. It's a little more juice, a little more excitement. Again, the only thing I worry about is Randall's always on that margin. He walks a thin line anyway, so I don't want him overly amped up. I'd rather him a little bit chilled out. So we'll see how it plays out.
And I'll be honest, I thought it was a good sign that did not escalate into more. Like I thought that he said his piece to Allen, he said his piece to the Cavs bench because somebody said something to him. And he yells on the back at them, which again is like, what does the Cavs bench have to say to him there? Like I don't even know what. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing, and me and my brother talk about this all the time. Like you go into a playoff series and you play a team that maybe you're not, you don't. It's not a storied rivalry, or it's not an established rivalry. And you come into the series like, hey, I have no issue with the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Cleveland fans. Like, why would I have an issue with them? And then me and my brother always talk about how long does it take for that animosity starts building. And after game 1, I still felt like, I don't. And they were talking crazy about the fouls. I was like, I don't feel any. I want the Knicks to win. I don't care. That is out the window after game 2. Between all that crying and then that play and then JB Bickerstaff and then these guys posted up. I don't know if you saw the picture of them. They're holding the chain and they're posing after winning one game. It's like, all right, officially it is what is so good about Cleveland. Now it's real. Before it was jokes. Now the whole joke, what's so good about Cleveland. Now we're there. Now we are officially there.
You like it? You think Cleveland's cool? I never heard anybody say I'm going to Cleveland on vacation. What's so good about Cleveland?
I don't know, Joakim. I don't know. Not much, clearly.
Isaac Okoro cheesing in that picture, hard eyeing the camera when he played 3 minutes. Come on, bro. You don't even get to wear the chain. You don't get to stand next to the person wearing the chain when you talk a lot and then play 3 minutes. So I agree. Adds a little excitement, a little intensity, as if we didn't have enough. We said it after game 1, and it's still true after game 2. Madison Square Garden, 33rd name will be loud on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Night.
So that's going to be an electric environment. And look, it's truth be told, I bought tickets for game 6, or I didn't buy them. My girlfriend bought them. And I was like, I don't know if there's going to be a game 6 after what happened in game 1, but I'm starting to think that there will be a game 6 with the way the series is going. So very fascinating series already. We'll see how things go down. But let's take it out west, because there's some other big playoff news that we did mention a little bit earlier. So a major development in the Western Conference playoffs as Draymond Green has been suspended for Game 3 of the Warriors series against the Sacramento Kings. Green stomped on the chest of Kings center Domantas Sabonis after Domas briefly grabbed his leg while being tangled up under the basket. NBA executive VP Joe Dumars said Green's, quote, over-the-top actions and status as a, quote, repeat offender led to the suspension. The Kings, meanwhile, said that Sabonis, who suffered a sternum injury due to the stomp, is listed as questionable. So, Tommy, this has been a lot of conversation regarding this incident and a lot of conversation about whether or not it was right to suspend Green. Where do you land on this? Do you think that the NBA was right to suspend Draymond Green for Game 3?
Man, I've been going back and forth on this a little bit. I'd like to come out and have a hot take, but I am a little bit on the fence on this. The reason against suspending him, he was ejected in the fourth quarter of the game. It was still
a very close game.
A very close one possession game, 7 minutes left. That's a big blow. So you're set. It's not the same as suspending him for 2 games. But typically, if you're going to err on the side, if it happened in the last seconds or it happened in the, halfway through the fourth quarter of a 20-point blowout, then it doesn't really have an impact on the series because, but this did have a material impact on the series. I understand that, it kind of happened in the heat of the moment. All that being said, I support I think I would have, if I was in Joe Dumars' place and Adam Silver league office, I think I would have suspended him well for a couple of reasons. And Dumars talked about this. He spoke with Woj and Shams and a bunch of guys. He's got quotes on record, essentially saying that the totality and the history of Draymond Green's histrionics played a factor here. And, the yanking, you talk about, the Jared Allen fouling somebody while going off for a dunk. He grabbed Brandon Clark's jersey and going off for a dunk.
Yeah.
Here, did Draymond Green. That's a dirty non-basketball play.
Absolutely.
We know about the kick to Steven Adams in the spot you don't want to get kicked out a few years ago. We know about the punch to LeBron James. All these things cumulatively, and those are just a few of the highlights of the Draymond Green's greatest hits. And the other thing is the way he reacts after the foul, egging on the crowd. He did the same thing after he got suspended in Memphis. I think saying that I knew the refs weren't going to eject me on podcasts in the past. He just has this, it just escalates the intensity and and all that goes into, I don't want to be, I understand, the league isn't tough enough and you want to see the stars play, and I get all that. But I just can't justify letting a guy do what he does and continue to continue to be allowed, essentially given free reign to continue to do the things. And the one other thing that I think also made it worse, because a lot of people are saying that Sabonis started it, and it could be interpreted that way, and I can't completely mitigate that, but I really did feel like if you look at it from one angle, I do feel like Sabonis kind of covered up as opposed to seeing that it was Draymond Green and Draymond Green about to go to a fast break and yanking him down and trying to hurt his ankle. I don't think that was the tension of Sabonis. But either way, when you stomp on a man's chest like that, I can't feel sorry for you when you're not allowed to play in the next game.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of the suspension, it's like it's like a cop-out answer, but it's almost like I can't disagree with the suspension.
Right, exactly.
It's
like they ruled it on the court and I can't overturn it. There's not enough there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Where it's like, look, I mean, he stomped on a guy's chest. I think for the sake of the NBA playoffs and how great that series has been, would I prefer Draymond Green just be playing and we get to see these two cleared now rivals, battle it out? Yeah, that'd be what I'd want to see. But like, that's just not how this goes. Like, there are Kings fans, there are people involved with the game as well, and they had their center get stomped on the chest. I don't know if you can just say, well, he got thrown out of that game and that's just it. If that was happening in the regular season, there's almost no chance that's not a suspension beyond the flagrant 2.
100%. And also, Sabonis is listed as questionable with the rib contusion.
Right.
So if Sabonis can't play and you allow Green to play, that just looks horrible.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and that's the hockey rule where like essentially like if you knock a guy out in hockey and he's out for a month, then you're out for a month. I mean, I think the NHL, I like that the NHL does that, quite frankly. So, so I agree that would have been a weird precedent if Sabonis can't go. So from that standpoint, it was like I can't argue with it. The other standpoint is from Draymond Green's perspective. I mean, this guy, he's a dirty player. I don't know what else to say. Like anybody who's trying to like make the amount of excuses I've seen, like I've heard so many people say, well, what else was he supposed to do when the guy grabbed his leg? I'm like, there are 26 guys on each roster. All 25 other guys would not have stomped on Domantas Sabonis' chest, including Domantas Sabonis, if Draymond Green grabbed his leg.
100%.
There's only one player on that court that was going to make that move, and that was Draymond Green, which is why for him, and if you're a Warrior fan who's upset, I just feel like you're upset at the wrong entity. You should be upset at Draymond Green, who continues to display a level of selfishness when it comes to being out of control in these environments and letting the environments get the best of him, and in turn hurting your chances of winning a championship. Like he very well may have cost the Warriors a chance to repeat, because I didn't think the series was over, and it may still not be over. But like those were two tough competitive games. I picked the Kings in 7, all disclosure, but the Kings had to squeak by both of those games. Those were tough games. I thought the Warriors were going to come in 3 and 4 and probably blow their doors off. So like this is a tough series. So for him to make that decision, knowing that now it's in the hands of the league of what's going to happen for you the rest of the series, I mean, to me, it's a completely like, I don't know, like it's like a non-serious kind of action. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I will say this. Yeah, you're right. And the Kings won 2 games, but I feel like they had to play close to their A game
Right.
to beat the Warriors. And obviously, we know about the Warriors' struggles on the road, reacclimating Andrew Wiggins back into the lineup. Now they go home where they've been dominant. But I will say this: if the Kings want to win the series, I want to. If they don't want to let this game slip away.
No, they gotta get this one.
Because if the Warriors win tonight without Draymond, that's going to make things very interesting for Game 4, and just kind of change the entire momentum of the series. So it sounds crazy to call a game a must-win for a team
up 2-0.
That's up 2-0. But you don't want to let this game slip away. But yeah, credit to you for calling it out. It seems like sometimes we ignore the previous 6 months of what we've seen, the Kings being really good and the Warriors being awful on the road.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And you know, our confirmation bias didn't prove right in this one. So it should be a fascinating game, Game 3, and the rest of the series going forward.
Yeah, like I tweeted, like I don't want to hear people talk about the NBA regular season not mattering. It matters. Now, whether or not the teams take it seriously is a whole nother conversation. But the Kings took the regular season seriously. They protected home court all season. So it prepared them for a matchup against a Warriors team that did not take the regular season seriously, that did not take road games seriously, to find a way to win 2 tough games at home. That is why the regular season does matter. People look at this and say, oh, it doesn't matter. You know, Kings, I know they won all these games, but I mean, they're the Kings. The Warriors are going to go out there and run right through them. I'm like, have you been paying attention? Like, it's so hard. And it's not just this season. This is like the totality of the NBA history. It's so hard to just flip a switch once the playoffs start. Like, if you're a 6C kind of team, you're a 6C kind of team. That's what the Warriors have been much of the season. Now the thing, we can just throw in Andrew Wiggins in the mix and just there'll be no consequences. And he's, you know, still trying to find his way through it. I won't say I was surprised at how much people were writing off the Kings in this series, because I wasn't, but I just think that the reasoning behind it, which seemed to almost entirely stem from throwing out the Warriors regular season and throwing out a lot of the Kings sets in the regular season, just didn't make sense. If you want to say from a roster standpoint, they got a better roster in terms of the Warriors, I may not even disagree with you, but I just didn't understand eliminating the regular season from why the Warriors were going to beat the Kings in this series. So I'll tell you what, there are very, very interesting series happening all across the NBA. Maybe not so much in the East besides this Knicks series, but in the West.
Well, does Milwaukee need to win tonight?
Doubtful. Well, that's another one.
Giannis doubtful for Game 2. I did not expect him to be listed as doubtful. We saw him go down with the injury, but it was it was contact injury, and it just seemed like obviously Miami's playing without Tyler Hero, but listen, the Bucks are good. And they can win 4 out of 5 with a healthy Giannis, but you're not going to get 100% Giannis in Game 3.
Definitely, yeah.
And you got to win, 3 of those games in Miami against playoff Jimmy Butler. That's no small task. So we got the Suns, the Kings, Warriors game tomorrow night, Thursday, and then we got the Milwaukee. Miami game tonight, so on Wednesday night, so it should be definitely some interesting action in the
it's been wild. You're right. That Bucks series got very interesting with that Giannis doubtful listing, and I said on WFAN just a couple of days ago that I felt like, technically yesterday, recorded this on Wednesday, that to me the Giannis injury and the Tyler Hero injury actually opened up a path to the Knicks to potentially, at the very minimum, go to the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. I think maybe go to the NBA Finals. That's how serious this could be. Giannis is now doubtful for this game. Things can get very weird and very interesting. As what was the character in the Marvel universe played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus said in Captain America, Winter Soldier? She was like, things about to get very weird. And that's kind of how I feel about the NBA playoffs. Things about to get very weird. I said Falcon. I meant Falcon and Winter Soldier, not Captain America Winter Soldier, but you know what I mean. Things about to get very weird in these NBA playoffs. I feel it. And buckle up. Buckle up, Knicks fans. You're in there for a long series. Buckle up, rest of the NBA. I think this is going to be a wild ride.
True.
But that's going to do it for this edition of Orange and Blue Bloods. So thank you guys so much for checking us out. Tommy, let the people know where they can find you.
At Tommy Beer on Twitter.
You can find me, EJ_Stewart on Twitter. Make sure you check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including the free Audacy app. Make sure you hit the auto download feature on your streaming service to get these episodes every time we drop. Also, check us out on YouTube. Check us out on the WFAN channel and the Audacy Sports channel. That'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. For Tommy, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.